Described as a devil and an angel to different eyes, he was, I dare say, one of the greatest pioneers ever in the history of mankind. However, there is an argument to be made for that. Studied to be one of the most controversial men in history for his views on the sociology of the world, Karl Marx broke many frontiers. He is known for his famous works including the Communist Manifesto, co-authored with Friedrich Engels, and his 4-volume Das Kapital. However, it is what happened after he died that changed the world's order drastically. Karl Heinrich Marx was a German political theorist, critic, politician, philosopher, and sociologist. He is well known for writing the Manifest der Kommunistischen Partei, also known as the Communist Manifesto, a dissertation on the topic of capitalism and how eventually it would self-destruct and evolve into socialism and later communism. Karl Marx was also the creator of the Marxist philosophy, which incorporated social, political, and economic theory. Born on May 5, 1818, in the Trier Rhineland province of Prussia, present-day Germany, Marx began life with humble beginnings. His family consisted of his parents and his 8 siblings. From the beginning of his influential life to the end, Karl Marx almost always lived in abject poverty. However, that never stopped him. From an early age, Marx showed signs of great intelligence in school and beyond. Both his parents were Jewish, but they later converted to Lutheranism because of a government-related conflict. While still in school, as a young adult, Marx joined a radicalism group called the Young Hegelians, which were a group of young men and women who followed the beliefs of Georg Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel, a philosopher who was known to inspire most of German idealism. After securing his doctorate degree in philosophy, Karl Marx would then set out to find a job suitable for his big ambitions. However, he quickly realized that he wouldn't enjoy most of the jobs as they served capitalist views and instead became a journalist for the Rheinische Zeitung, a newspaper in Cologne, Germany. Here, Marx found he could speak freely of his views in the changing world while hopefully inspiring others to join his cause. It was at this time where he started journaling to form his own views. However, in 1845, Karl Marx and his wife Jenny von Westphalen were exiled in France because of the growing influence on revolutionary beliefs. It was around this time when Karl Marx decided that he would change the world system into a better and more balanced economy. After fleeing France, Marx went to reside in Brussels, Belgium. Here, he started to form the early stages of the Communist Party at the time. This meant that he would host regular meetings in which his followers, who would later be known as the original Marxists, spoke about their opinions on the economy. Although their viewpoints differed greatly, they had a few things in common. For starters, they all believed that capitalism was flawed and that socialism would eventually take over. They also believed if something was not done, many countries would go into a system of disarray. Sadly, Marx had to forfeit his job as a journalist for the Rheinische Zeitung, as people were starting to find his criticism a little too offensive and banished him. However, as fate would show, this would not stop him. After running away from different countries, Karl Marx finally settled in London in 1848, where along with Friedrich Engels would construct what would later be known as the most influential thesis in the socialist movement, Communist Manifesto. Shortly after the manifesto was released, sudden uprisings were found to be common in different parts of Europe. This was tremendous as most of the government systems of the world at the time were heavily based on some form of democracy or monarchy. However, for a random philosopher to drastically change that and invent a new form of governance system was huge. Unfortunately, Karl Marx died in 1883 to disease. However, his works were taken into account by many people. Flash forward a few years and introduce Vladimir Lenin. Lenin was a politician, political theorist, and much more. His goal in life was to switch Russia's monarchy, the Romanovs, into something socialistic. Following the ideals of a dead man by the name of Karl Marx, Lenin led his Marxists to finding the origins of communism, a form of government in which all of society is publicly owned and needs are evenly distributed throughout the nation. Using the basis of socialism and shunning capitalism, Lenin believed he could truly change Mother Russia. In 1917, Lenin led his Marxists, now referring to themselves as the Bolsheviks, into an election to seize power. However, it was short-lived. A couple of leftist socialists who didn't believe in Marxism won the election. However, Lenin was a formidable man and was not to be stopped by trivial events. In his word promising land, bread, and peace to everyone, The Bolsheviks took over and the government by means of military force. Around 25% of the entire nation supported Lenin and his ideology. However, there was still a problem. Although Lenin won the election and became the ruler of what used to be known as Soviet Russia, the royal family still existed and were threatening to take control of Lenin's power and in the end get rid of him. This induced a period of time called the Red Terror, which was a series of executions of the highest-ranking officials that reported to the Tsar. However, not all great things can come without prices. In 1924, Lenin dies at the age of 54. Soviet Russia was in shock. Without their famous leader, how could they continue their lifestyle? Enter Joseph Stalin. Stalin was head of secretary, eventually rising up to become Soviet Russia's next leader. He promised to create a country that had a strong grip on the world and would have immense power. However, to achieve this, some difficult decisions were to be made. In 1937, the Great Purge occurred. This was an event ordered by Stalin to kill some of communism's greatest adversaries. After a year, what was left were the 1.2 million that were killed. It was a dark time for Russia. However, what rose came to become the Soviet Union. Spanning a period of 40 years, from 1940 to 1979, communism was established by force or by other means in countries such as Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Yugoslavia, Poland, North Korea, Albania, Bulgaria, Romania, Czechoslovakia, East Germany, Hungary, China, Tibet, North Vietnam, Guinea, Cuba, Yemen, Kenya, Sudan, Congo, Burma, Angola, Benin, Cape Verde, Laos, Campuchia, Madagascar, Mozambique, and also Somalia and Seychelles. Together, this was the Soviet Union. In 1947, in the aftermath of World War II, the Cold War begins after the Soviet Union declared victory over Nazi Germany and the US believed that communism needed to be contained. This leads to the United States sending troops to Vietnam and Korea. After the short wars, Vietnam stayed a communist party. However, Korea was split into two countries, North Korea, which was occupied by the Communistic Party, and South Korea, which was occupied by the United States. Then, in a historic turn of events, Chinese leader Mao Zedong publicly announced that the nation of China would now be the People's Republic of China, letting communism rule the country. This led to the canceling of many trade deals held by foreign countries. In 1959, Fidel Castro, Cuban revolutionary and politician, overthrows the corrupt government system of Cuba and formally announces that Cuba would now be referred to as a communist-governed country. However, not everything was a success. In 1989, ordered by President Ronald Reagan, the United States invades Grenada in hopes of disassembling the communistic government. In about a week, the US succeeds and finally overthrows the government. The events following this invasion were known as the downfall of communism. 3 months after Grenada was seized, the Berlin Wall, which separated the Communist and the Democratic parties of Germany, falls after 30 years. In around 1 year, communist regimes in Czechoslovakia, Hungary, Bulgaria, Poland, Romania, Benin, Mozambique, Nicaragua, and Yemen fall apart and dismantled into their previous government systems. It was looking to be the end of communism. Finally, on Christmas Day of 1991, Mikhail Gorbachev, a Soviet leader, resigned and politician Boris Yeltsin takes over the government and decided as his first verdict to ban communism all over Russia. Communism soon ends in Afghanistan, Albania, Angola, Congo, Kenya, Yugoslavia, and other nations as a result of Yeltsin's decisions. However, countries such as China, Vietnam, North Korea, and Laos remain under communist rule. However, Russia, known as one of the original communist countries, slides back into the one thing Karl Marx dreaded, capitalism. Overall, Karl Marx was an exceptional person. He broke the frontier of the world's order and governing system with his critiques of capitalism. He was also practically the father of communism. Although he didn't survive to see the effects of his life's work, I presume that he would have been overjoyed in finally completing his life's mission. Without Marx, the Soviet Union would have never been found, and improvements in space exploration, medical advancements, and political theory would cease to exist. All of this leads me to believe that Marx in the end was not just a regular pioneer.